Today we're going to be tying the water skimmer, which can be used as either a gurgler or a hopper dead drifted down the river. Both are extremely effective. So after laying down your thread base, cut the tag end. Now we're going to tie in one chartreuse saddle hackle on the side of the hook shank. After making a couple thread wraps just to hold it in place, take a second piece of saddle hackle and tie it in so the tips match up on the opposite side of the hook shank. Cut the tag ends about a third of the way down the hook shank, and then make a couple more wraps tying it in. Then bring your thread back down to the tie-in point. Now we're going to tie in a section of black saddle hackle. Strip some of the lower section of feather off of the stem. Now tie it in at the same tie-in points as the chartreuse hackle. Finish tying in the stem, and don't worry if your thread snaps at any point during this tie. It happens to all of us. Just reset your thread in your bobbin and capture the thread that got snapped. Then finish tying in your saddle hackle. With the aid of your hackle pliers, start wrapping the hackle up the shank, making connecting wraps. Once you've made 10 or so wraps with the black saddle hackle, you can now tie it in. You can make a couple wraps with the tag end still attached to your hackle pliers to help hold tension. Then once you're sure it's not going to slip, unclip your hackle pliers and finish tying in the tag end. And again, if your thread snaps, just reset your bobbin. It's not a big deal. I'm a little heavy-handed with my thread tension. Now you can trim the tag end of your saddle hackle and then finish tying it in by covering the cut end with thread wraps, and then bring your thread back down to the tie-in point. You're going to take a full strip of green foam and then half a strip of green foam, and you're going to glue the two of them together. Then the side that's only a single thickness, you're going to tie into the hook shank. You're going to tie it in, working your way up to the eye of the hook. And if it's a little bit long, you can trim it back. Doing this will leave you room to whip finish and tie in the foam so the head's not super bulky. Then work your way back, making more thread wraps, capturing the foam and sucking it down to the hook shank. Then you're going to pull out 5 to 10 strands of floss, depending on how bulky you want the fly. And you're going to tie it in at the same spot that the foam is sticking out. Then trim up all the tag ends. Then you can advance your thread to behind the eye of the hook. Then you can build up a small head by making connecting thread wraps in front of the foam. Then grab your clump of floss and start palmering it in, making connecting wraps all the way up the shank, making sure the hide all the thread and foam underneath it. Once you reach your bobbin, tie in all the floss. Then cut the tag ends. And then hide the cut ends with a few more thread wraps. Now fold the foam forward and try to measure out the length that you want to cut it at. When you cut it, you're going to cut it at an angle. If it makes it easier for you, you can tilt the vise slightly so you can see that you're not only cutting it at an angle, but as straight as possible. But if it doesn't come out perfectly straight, you can trim a little bit or leave it as is. Now we're going to tie it in place. Make a couple loose wraps, orientate it, and then pull it tight and continue to make tight thread wraps to hold it in place. Now we're going to take 2 rubber legs and leave them attached so they're still stuck together. By doing this, it just makes it a little easier to tie in pairs of legs at once. Hold them in place. Now you're only making a couple wraps just to hold them while you prepare to tie in the other side. Now take another pair of legs, hold them onto the opposite side of the foam body, then make a couple wraps. Make sure they're all orientated correctly. Trim them to whatever length you want. If you like shorter legs, cut them short. If you want them long, leave them long. It's totally up to you and what the fish like in your body of water. Now you're going to pull the foam head back and sneak your thread up under it. Now, it's a little tricky, but you're going to have to whip finish underneath the foam head. Then you can cut your bobbin free. Now we're going to attach our 3D eyes. You can either stick them straight on and cover them with some UV resin or add a dab of super glue. Once you've finished attaching your eyes with small dabs of super glue behind them, you can do some last minute trimming and then start separating the legs. As you can see, it can be a pain trying to separate rubber legs with your fingertips, especially when there's only 2 of them connected. So what I like to do is take my scissors and cut a tiny bit between the legs. That way it just separates them enough that you can grab onto each one and then pull them apart. Just a little trick that makes it much easier. And there you have it, how to tie a water skimmer.